Final Fantasy 15 was released in 2016, and according to its intro, it's a Final Fantasy for first timers. As somebody who's played 7, 8, 12, and a little bit of 13, I agree with this self proclamation. That being said, as a first timer to the game itself, I can't comment on the troubles at launch or the disappointment of the cancellation of Versus 13. I can only talk about playing the game for the first time in 2024. So, with that being said, let's begin. 15 tells the story of Noctis as he is sent off to be wed to the Oracle Lady Lunafreya. His father, King Regis, sends him, along with his friends Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus, as his bodyguards. Now, fair warning, I'm going to get into some mild spoilers for what happens in the first couple hours of this game, but it does have this plot really does go forward quite quickly. Eventually, the card does break down, and though some quests provide an old friend of Regis's uh, named Sid, the group is sent back on their way. However, tragedy strikes after the kingdom of Insomnia is attacked, resulting in the death of the king. Not only does this mean the end of the wedding, but it also makes our four heroes fugitives. As far as story beats go, this is as far as I'll go because depending on how many side quests you start out with, you could very well see the fall of Insomnia within the first 2 to 3 hours of playing the game. It's a solid and very bold beginning to Noctis' journey. Usually this sort of thing happens later on in the game, but this one it's the road running pretty quickly. So that's, I guess, my only gripe with the story is many times Noctis and company will be doing side quests and just pitching up their tents, and they kind of just carry on like nothing has happened. Like Noctis doesn't seem that bothered by his dad's passing during gameplay. Like during cutscenes, he's obviously very broken up about it, um, but he doesn't. It's not really talked about because it's like one of the great things about this game is that there's a lot of side talking. So that builds character moments, but it doesn't seem like this big thing has really happened. Um, but that does lead me to my favorite part of this game. It's the four leading men. There is something special about taking a road trip with the quote unquote dudes. Although not related by blood, they genuinely feel like brothers. The bantering while driving, fighting, questing, and going in dungeons isn't really eye rolling to me. I suppose it does boil down to taste, but I feel like the characters never fall into territory of being too quippy to be annoying. Ignis is the brains and the cook, Prompto is the comedy relief photographer, Gladiolus is sort of the big brother and protector, then you have Noctis, who is often quiet and hesitant leader of the group. So, what about the rest of the NPCs? They give out side quests and they're well voice acted and their job is well done. Though my only issue is what the hell do they do during day and night cycles? Like it'll be pouring down rain and they'll be just in the same spot. It's not like Oblivion or Skyrim where NPCs have their own day and night cycles where they'll actually go to bed. It's just like it seems like these people barely ever sleep. Like the only people that you see sleep are the four main characters. It was weird. And, some of the NPCs are a bit silly, and, there's Sydney is just Cindy. But, of course, this is a video game, so what about the gameplay? 15's approach to real time action is a relatively new thing for the franchise, and I think that will ease new players into it, people that aren't into the old school, turn based stuff. To be honest, somebody who's played the other games, it did take some getting used to. Thankfully, the game doesn't punish you if you don't quite get down the dodging or parrying system. I didn't really get the hang of it until maybe about 8 hours into the game and after training with Gladiolus at camp. Something that I would recommend. My least favorite thing is what they do with magic. Noctis can absorb elements from points in the environment and store them into essentially grenades, which makes them by no means like they're not terrible, but it feels too simple and not very in depth. And I think the magic system in previous installments is far better. It just feels like they didn't really know what to do. But hands down, my second favorite thing about this game is the food. Eating is very important in this game. Different recipes boost different stats and game mechanics. And there's also something really satisfying about the randomness of Ignis saying,
That's it.
What's up, Iggy?
I've come up with a new recipe.
and you can then eat food at the campsites as well as take carry out from local shops. I would highly recommend getting as many recipes as you can because I think the graphics for the food and then the trying out different combos is really fun. All in all, Final Fantasy 15 is a huge game to explore. It does take a lot of inspiration from Western RPGs, but it isn't. But it is a full-blown JRPG. While the combat took some getting used to for me, it's by no means complicated and doesn't make it any less of a Final Fantasy game. There's so much to talk about with 15 hours in, but I hope at the very least I give you a general good idea of what the game is like. I think that is what the key of what Final Fantasy is that each installment is different. There's going to be things that carry over, and there's going to be different generations of these games. But with each installment, it will ensure that Final Fantasy survives.